We have some juicy stuff coming out of IGN today, talking about some behind-the-scenes stuff with Inside Out 2, a massive hit for Disney. It's at $1.6 billion worldwide. That is massive. That's a big hit for them, considering that Pixar, the studio that made this movie, has had a string of failures. There was a lot of conversations around what would happen to Pixar if this movie failed, and it seems like this movie saved Pixar. So here's what's going on. I found this through Culture Crave, who breaks down the article here. We're going to go over it, actually. I have it pulled up, but this is a summary of the entire article, because I'm not going to read the whole thing, but here's what they had to say. So animators were working 7 days a week, with one employee calling it the largest crunch in studio history. And they worked hard on this one to get it out. They wanted to get this out this year, and they did. Crunch is a hard one because a lot of jobs have forced overtime, especially people that work in like factories and work at hospitals. I think even like police and certain other areas, like you get forced to work overtime. And that sucks. It does. Now, I don't know the difference with somebody that works at an animated studio. Now, the one nice thing about people that work at some of those jobs that I mentioned is they at least get overtime pay. I don't know how that works with animators, and it sounds like they don't get any overtime pay. And I think they should. If you're working overtime, you should get paid more. And if they're not getting paid more, I think you should get some kind of benefit for that. But like I said, I don't know the details of how people get paid in these kinds of industries as far as overtime work, but I do think that you should get a benefit for it financially. That's just how I feel about it. Feel free to disagree with me in the comments. Here's an interesting one, and we're going to go over this because in the actual article, this one right here, they're very salty about this. Disney leadership asked animators to make Riley come across as less gay. They even put a large part of Lightyear's failure on that same-sex kiss. Here's the thing about that, and I'm going to talk about this more. So, even still, I don't know what the plot of Lightyear is. I haven't seen it. I'm just going by what marketing did with that movie. They never really explained the plot of that movie very well, but they made damn sure that you knew there was a same-sex kiss in it. It came off as the most important aspect of that film, and it's not so much the kiss thing that made it fail. It's the fact that they based the marketing around it, and they did. They made sure people knew that was in that movie, like it was a selling point. And I'm sorry, that's just not a selling point for a children's movie. And I don't understand why people that don't have kids are so invested in making sure that that shit is in the movie. Pixar employees laid off before release did not qualify for a bonus for working on the film. It felt like the ultimate FU from Disney. That's another thing they're very concerned about in that article. And that sucks. I think if you worked on that movie the same as anybody else, and if you got laid off, they should still get that bonus. That's kind of dirty. They should have got the bonus. Layoffs happen. But if you put the same amount of time into that movie as someone else that's still there and didn't get that bonus, that's bullshit. You should have got that bonus. One employee pointed out the irony of working on a film about mental health only to have their health insurance stripped away. Laid off employees couldn't pick up their belongings during work hours as to not make the remaining employees feel awkward. Key cards were restricted to outside of normal work week hours. That's kind of weird. Some employees give Pixar credit for paying overtime, offering time off, and strong health support during the crunch. Okay, so they did pay overtime. Well, that's good. I mean, look, man, forced overtime sucks. But this isn't the only industry that has that. At least you got paid overtime. That's a good thing. So I'm glad that they did that. You should get a financial incentive for having to work overtime. In general, you should get it, especially if you're forced. And then goes on to talk about more crunch issues for the next movie. And, like, this seems like a standard thing in the business. They got to get these things out. And like I said, there's many industries that have forced overtime. It seems like the people in the entertainment industry hate it. But it's like, you're not the only ones that suffer from this kind of a thing at a job. It is what it is. Does it suck having to work a lot of hours and you don't get a say in it? Yeah, but at least you're getting overtime. If they weren't paying them overtime, like, that would be, in my opinion, some BS. You should get paid extra for overtime. It's a big incentive to do it. But at least you got that. So here's the actual article. This highlight here is just talking about the crunch. And the reason I highlighted that because I wasn't sure if they got overtime, but that gets answered in the article. But here's the interesting stuff. And it goes with like the culture of change and a lot of this stuff. Outside of the financial strain of it all, sources also paint a picture of a studio that's terrified to rock the boat, with some internally pushing to avoid LGBTQ themes, requiring edits to Inside Out 2. It's a studio, they say, that's overly reliant on Chief Creative Officer Pete Docter, stubbornly set in his ways and setting its remaining team up for more crunch in its future films. So there's a whole section down here that talks about Lightyear and some of the stuff that happened with it. Because Lightyear was a massive financial failure, and there's a lot of reasons to why that movie failed. The new voice for Buzz is a big one. Piss poor marketing is also a big reason that movie failed. And none of the marketing really explained why that movie needed to exist. Because, I mean, so the show that Buzz Lightyear is based on is that animated show. So in the world of Toy Story, from what I always understood, the source material for his show that the toy's based on was that Buzz Lightyear Disney animated show. And I guess people were saying that this is a movie, but it's not based on the show. It's its own thing. Like, it was very confusing, and they never explained that very well. But they made damn sure that you knew that there were going to be two women kissing in it. Like, they put massive importance on that. And that's just not going to bring people to theaters. I want to see a movie. That's not a selling point to get me to go spend $100 taking my family to a movie. I'm sorry. You didn't even explain why this movie exists. So here's what they had to say. The apparent hesitance to touch on LBGTQ themes, storylines in particular, affected Inside Out 2's development, according to several of our sources. Multiple people recall hearing about continuous notes to make Riley, the main character of both Inside Out movies, come across as less gay, leading to numerous edits that ramped up around September 2023. After the resolution of the WGA strike, sources describe rumors that there was special care put into making the relationship between Riley and Val, a supporting character introduced in Inside Out 2, seem as platonic as possible, even requiring edits to the lighting and ton of certain scenes to remove any trace of romantic chemistry. One source describes it as just doing a lot of extra work to make sure no one would potentially see them as not straight. And they point out, like, canonically, Riley is straight. But the problem is the crazy shippers and people that are obsessed with identity being put in there, because they look for, like, clues to why they're probably scissoring and make the lifestyle about that. Well, they should definitely do it in the movie. They're mad. Like, people got mad. They were calling out, like, saying they were queer coding the deep, dark secret in some short, and they were mad that she didn't come out, and the secret was her burning a hole in the carpet. Everything needs to be defined by their identity. I felt baited because I needed validation from a freaking Disney movie that's made for kids. So, very interesting article. Seems that Disney does not want another failure like Lightyear, which they lost a lot of money. They said it themselves. Disney considers a movie making money at $600 million for Pixar, and a hit is $1 billion. So I think they're finally starting to tighten their belt around there. Maybe don't market your entire movie based around scissoring. You should maybe work on actually getting the story across to people, which they didn't do with Lightyear, and they're still salty about old Lightyear. So that's what's going on there. Interesting to find out these kinds of mandates are coming down from higher up at Disney now. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of salt about this. I'm sure you're going to see like 30 articles tomorrow, like trying to get Disney to go back to Lightyear times, and I just don't think that's going to happen. Interesting stuff. Let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments. Also, if you would, please like, subscribe, share the video. Make sure you're still subscribed. Hit that notification bell, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.